All right, we're live.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
How you doing, everybody? And welcome to the Moffett on the Mic radio show. We are live, as always, courtesy of the 81 Sports Network. This is why we do it live, and there are no retakes on the show. I am Craig Moffett, and of course, this show would not be complete without the stylings of the one and only Billy Bob.
What up, Craig?
It has been a while, sir. How are you doing?
It's been a while.
So, first off, congrats on the latest with the FDNY. I'm glad.
Thank you.
You know, this seems like this is something you've been really wanting to do for a long time, so I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you.
We're going to be changing up our recording schedule. We're going to probably take a little bit of another break, probably come back in another month or so.
Mhm.
Klim is going to be joining the FDNY, so he's going to be doing some training, some dispatch training, all that stuff. And so definitely pretty exciting time for him. And so what part of Queens are you going to be in?
I'm right. Like last night, I was in Cambria Heights,
Mm-hmm.
but like I could be stationed anywhere throughout Queens for like the group I'm in. Like so, like one day, like I said, like last night I was in Cambria Heights. Tomorrow I could be in Astoria, or like the next day I could be in Jamaica. I could be sent all over Queens.
All right. So Klim's schedule is going to be changing a bit. So we're going to be altering our recording schedule, but we're going to get our shit organized, and then in March we'll probably start up doing shows few and far between, which actually wouldn't be a bad thing because it's spring training. It's the legal tampering period will be right around the corner at that point. NFL draft talk will be getting into full swing. Free agency for the NFL will be right around the corner. So there'll definitely be plenty to talk about starting in March, and so we'll be doing that. But we thought we'd do a little bit of like a last-minute show tonight. You can follow the show on Instagram, as always, at Moff on the Mic. You can follow Klim and the 81 Sports Network on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook as well. You can like and subscribe to our show, courtesy of Apple Podcasts, and leave us a 5-star review. We'll get into the Islanders making a big trade today, getting Bo Horvat for Anthony Beauvillier, Atu Rati, and a first-round pick. We'll get into that. We will talk about the Royal Rumble that took place on Saturday. And but I had a little bit of – I needed to vent a little bit because, for the past few weeks, the Giants had a great run, and you couldn't have asked for a better season if you're a Giant fan, especially when you're a team that was predicted to really go nowhere.
Right.
So the fact that you were able to get to the second round of the playoffs, you beat the Vikings in the first round. Unfortunately, you got your asses handed to you by the Eagles. But there's no shame in that. The Eagles are just an elite. They're just a much better team than you right now.
Right.
It doesn't mean the Giants can't get better, which I'm sure they will be. They'll have plenty of money to spend in the offseason. They'll probably make some cuts. So the Giants will definitely be coming for the big-time free agents. I was reading something the other day, which actually makes a lot of sense, would be to go out and get, if he becomes available by the Arizona Cardinals, DeAndre Hopkins. To give Daniel Jones a very good, legitimate number one weapon on the outside. With Kenny Golladay being a potential cut, Darius Slayton is an unrestricted free agent. The Giants really have no receivers right now, and they have no tight ends. So it might be the smart move if they want to try to go after, but I'm not really sure what their strategy is going to be moving forward. They have to extend Dexter Lawrence. They have to get a contract done with Daniel Jones, and they have to figure out a way whether they want to keep him or not with Saquon Barkley. So the story earlier was Saquon Barkley reportedly the Giants offered him a $12 million a year contract, turned it down, and he's supposedly looking for money in the Christian McCaffrey range of $16 million, $17 million a season. I don't blame him for asking for that kind of money. The problem is I've only gotten one legitimately healthy season out of Saquon Barkley. Yeah. And I don't know if the Giants really want to spend that kind of money on him, especially when you've seen all around the league how teams have just replaced big market running backs with UDFAs and kind of random draft picks. I mean, look at a team like the 49ers, for example. I think Elijah Mitchell was a 6th-round pick.
No, you're
them, and so was Jeff Wilson Jr. before they traded him to Miami. Look at what the Jets had with Breece Hall being a 2nd-rounder, Michael Carter as a 4th-rounder, and Zonovan Knight as an undrafted free agent. Teams aren't really breaking the bank to get running backs paid. So I think Barkley's going to have a hard time finding that kind of money unless he finds a team that just has so much freaking money that they have to spend it somewhere, and they wind up using the money.
I was going to say, I agree with you, but I think the ball is in Saquon's court now because, yeah, like you mentioned, Greg, he only legitimately had 1 or 2 healthy seasons, for the Giants. So why would the Giants want to pay him that money? But on the flip side, Saquon can go right into them and be like, look, your offense was terrible without me. And without me this year, you wouldn't have been, I can guarantee. He could say, without me, your offense wouldn't have been anything either. The offense is based around Saquon Barkley. And that was the problem, like, with Giants fans these past few years, that, Daniel Jones is the problem. It's Daniel Jones this, it's Daniel Jones that. It's not Daniel Jones. Clearly, because you saw that this year. You had Saquon Barkley in your lineup almost every game, and he was a stud. The offense moved swimmingly with Saquon Barkley. You get legitimate wide receivers in there, that could be a very scary offense. The offensive line looked pretty decent this year. Evan Neal looked like a good rookie. Andrew Thomas is finally starting to look like a 1st-round draft pick. You get some filler linemen in here and there. You get another wide receiver. The Giants' offense can be very deadly. But, Craig, I also agree with you to the point where running backs are a dime a dozen. You can get one in the 6th round. If you get one in the 4th round, you can grab one in the 1st round. You never know where these running backs are going to come from. So, yeah, can he be replaced? Sure. But at the same time, Saquon is a really good running back when he's healthy. And then that's the other problem, too. It's when he's healthy.
But it also is another interesting facet of this is Daniel Jones. Because, again, we only have one good season from Daniel Jones. Now, Brian Daboll got the most out of him. And I think in many ways the Giants have backed themselves into a bit of a corner on this one. And they may have no choice but to pay Daniel Jones. I don't really know what Daniel Jones' value is. I'm not even sure if the Giants know. But they had declined his 5th-year option for a reason. And now teams are going to be gunning for him because there's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks right now.
Mm-hmm.
Besides the Jets, you're talking about, the Tennessee Titans may release Ryan Tannehill. The Falcons need a quarterback. The Saints need a quarterback. The Panthers need a quarterback. I've already listed off 5 teams. We don't know what the situation is going to be for Lamar in Baltimore, so the Ravens may need a quarterback. The Raiders need a quarterback.
The Buccaneers need a quarterback.
Buccaneers need a quarterback. It's 8 teams, man. The Colts need a quarterback. The Texans need a quarterback. It's the Commanders need a quarterback. Half the teams in the NFL, right? Almost half the teams, not half the teams. Almost half the teams right now need a quarterback. And I'm not saying whether Daniel Jones, it might behoove the Giants to get Daniel Jones signed sooner than waiting it out.
Mm-hmm.
So that way he's locked in, and you don't have to worry about the position, and then you could worry about other options.
Right.
Now, segueing over to the Jets. Okay. So we haven't done a show in a while. So there's a lot of things we have to kind of go back. We have to go back to and kind of figure out. Number one was we didn't do a show when I don't think we did a show when Mike LaFleur got fired.
No.
If I remember right. Okay. So here's my thing. Here's my say on that. I was indifferent to whether Mike LaFleur should stay or should go. I understood the reasons why he should stay, and I also understood the reasons why he should go. Here is the bottom line of why Mike LaFleur at the end of the day deserved to be fired. When your offense does not score touchdowns in 3 straight games, that is a fireable offense.
Mm-hmm.
When your offense only scores 4 touchdowns in the last 6 games of the season, that is a fireable offense. Okay? When your offense repeatedly has difficulty scoring in the red zone, that is a fireable offense. And the one other thing that's important to this whole thing, when your offensive coordinator cannot develop a number 2 overall pick into an adequate quarterback.
Yep.
I'm not even talking about a Pro Bowler. I'm talking about an adequate quarterback. Okay? That is a fireable offense. And I'm sorry, at the end of the day, those are the things that buried Mike LaFleur. I don't want to hear about the quarterback problems. I don't want to hear about the offensive line injuries. I don't want to hear about the injuries to Breece Hall and AVT. I do take those things into account when I make those decisions. But at the end of the day, it was obvious that Mike LaFleur was not the answer as the offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
And it would have been very difficult for Robert Saleh to run it back with Mike LaFleur as his OC next year. Now, if the plan was to get Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe I could understand it a little bit more. But it's pretty obvious the Jets are going big game hunting. But you know what pisses me off, Klim?
Mm-hmm.
It's, and I say this time and time again, it's either the social media fans or the Jets beat writers that just drive me up the wall. And the reason why they drive me up the wall is because they try to have it both ways. So what they try to do is they paint this picture of Mike LaFleur not being a good offensive coordinator, having issues with staff, having issues with Zach Wilson, having issues with players, not being able to get touchdowns, and the laundry list goes on and on. Yet they have the nerve to tell you they want you to keep Mike LaFleur.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem with that is, how can you possibly justify Mike LaFleur staying on as an offensive coordinator when he couldn't get into the end zone? And keep in mind, he didn't play elite defenses to close out the season. The Jaguars had a terrible defense. The Seahawks had a bad defense. The Dolphins had a bad defense. And the Lions had the worst passing defense in the league, or the worst rushing defense, I think. But I think it was rushing, not passing. Yet he couldn't generate anything.
Yeah.
They were barely scraping by. No game plan. He has all these weapons. And that's another thing. You may have lost AVT to an injury. You may have lost Breece Hall to an injury, but you didn't lose Garrett Wilson. You didn't lose Elijah Moore. You didn't lose CJ Uzama. You didn't lose Ty Conklin. And you didn't lose Braxton Berrios. And Zonovan Knight was filling in nicely for Breece Hall. And if you were that concerned about the running game with Breece Hall being hurt, then why didn't you just activate James Robinson?
Right.
Okay? You see, this is why I can't justify keeping LaFleur here. Okay? And I liked LaFleur. I wanted to see him succeed. But when the team can't score, and it didn't matter who the quarterback was, by the way. It didn't matter if it was Joe Flacco. It didn't matter if it was Zach Wilson. And it didn't matter if it's Mike White. They all had trouble generating touchdowns in this offense because of LaFleur's play calling. So in that sense, he had to go. Now, here's the part that also bothers me with the Jets beat writers. Like I said before, I would understand it if Mike LaFleur was, let's say, a top 15 coordinator, top 16 coordinator. The offense finished 29th. This is Adam Gase territory. But what bothers me is, here it comes, ready? It's Mike LaFleur gets a job now replacing Sean McVay in Los Angeles. Or I'm not replacing Sean McVay, but he's Sean McVay's new offensive coordinator in Los Angeles. And here comes because I saw this from Connor Rogers. He tweeted this he said, well, for anybody who thought that Robert Saleh fired Mike LaFleur, well, here you go, because now he's going to work for Sean McVay. In retrospect, what he's trying to say is that, well, Woody fired Mike LaFleur, not Saleh. My question is, who gives a rat's ass who fired Mike LaFleur? Who cares? He didn't get the job done. So why do I care if Woody fired him? Or why would I care if Robert Saleh fired him?
Right.
And honestly, if I'm Woody, I probably would have fired him. I'm the owner of this team. I just watched my team that I gave all this money to guys like Carl Lawson and Corey Davis and all these other, went in on Zach Wilson being second overall because Joe Douglas told me that was the guy that was going to lead this offense. By the way, I'd like to think that Mike LaFleur had a say in Zach Wilson being drafted, because I highly doubt he would have taken the job if he didn't have any type of input as to who his quarterback was going to be.
Right.
Yet we sit here, the Jets beat writers sit here, and they pretend that it's like you're creating drama there's not drama, like you're trying to create smoke where there's nothing there. Okay. And for me, it's like, okay, let's piss on Woody now because Woody's the owner that Jet fans hate. So Woody had to have fired Mike LaFleur and everything. And it was all about the hierarchy. This is all these problems with the organization. The fact is if I'm the owner of the Jets and I watch my team go from 7-4 to 7-10 and get knocked out of the playoffs with a fairly easy schedule to close out the season, you damn well better believe that I'm going for somebody's head.
Yeah, and it's not like.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, it's not like towards the end of the season, like you mentioned. We saw some pretty favorable matchups for our offense against defenses, and we know it wasn't the defense that was giving us problems; it was the offense. It was blatantly to see. Like I think what the most someone put up on us was 21 points. You mean to tell me that this offense couldn't put up 24 points against these shitty defenses? There's no way. You're absolutely right. These were fireable offenses. And like you mentioned, it doesn't matter if Woody Johnson, Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh, it doesn't matter who fired him. The guy had to go. Like, yeah, you lost. If Mike White was supposed to be the savior of this season, all right, you lost Mike White. Zach Wilson should be a competent enough quarterback to at least get you 3 more wins in that game against the Lions, against the Jaguars, against the Seahawks. These were favorable matchups in the Jets' favor. The Jets should be in the playoffs. Should have been in the playoffs.
Now, let me make this very clear, too. I'm not trying to give Zach Wilson a pass, by the way. Zach Wilson played like crap.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll be the first to say it. You can't defend the indefensible when it comes to Zach Wilson. The fact is he took a major step back. He has a confidence issue now, and he's probably pretty much broken at this point. Mm-hmm. So we don't really know what we even have in this kid, because he took such a colossal step back in 2022 that I'm not sure I can rely on him to be the backup quarterback, let alone a starter.
Right.
So, but I am going to pin a lot of that on LaFleur. I'm going to pin a lot of that on LaFleur because it was your responsibility to develop him. It was the quarterback coach's responsibility to develop him. And they didn't. And the thing is, I'm sure Woody didn't go in. I'm sure Woody probably told Robert Saleh, listen, you got to tell me why I should keep Mike. Why should I keep Mike LaFleur as your offensive coordinator when this team didn't score a touchdown in 3 games.
Right.
3 games. You know how bad that is? Even the friggin' Texans scored a touchdown in 3 games. I mean, no. And the thing is, like, the other thing that was kind of interesting to me with Mike LaFleur was if Mike LaFleur really wanted to keep his job with the Jets, he would have at least put together a game plan to try to knock the Dolphins out of the playoffs or something. I mean, you didn't have Zach Wilson anymore, so you can't blame him. You had freaking Joe Flacco. So I don't get it. What's the problem? Like, why can't you put this all together?
Yeah,
you have all your.
I'll say it doesn't help that he came out at the end of the season admitting that Zach Wilson shouldn't have started and he should have sat these first 2 years. That doesn't help your case.
But again, then that's on Saleh and that's on LaFleur. And quite frankly, Robert Saleh is lucky he didn't get canned.
Right.
Robert Saleh is very lucky. And the thing is, I like Robert Saleh a lot. And the one thing I said about the team when the last time we had this conference, when we had the show, was Robert Saleh, for a guy whose calling card was passion and motivation. You're watching him on YouTube videos, practically running out onto the field, pumped up and everything. We just don't see it on the field enough. Then you have people like Garrett Wilson calling out the offense, basically saying, oh, well, teams pretty much knew what we were going to run. It's a bad look from the floor, man. But I'm going to get into that in a minute because that's another side note. So LaFleur's gone. Every Jets beat writer says, oh, well, they should have kept LaFleur. They should have kept LaFleur. I was indifferent to it. I didn't have a problem bringing LaFleur back, but it was pretty obvious you could not pair LaFleur with Zach Wilson. But then another story comes out basically saying that, well, LaFleur was telling people that Zach Wilson can't run his offense. But that's only a bigger indictment on Mike LaFleur because you helped make that draft pick. If you thought he couldn't run the offense, why the hell did you draft him 2nd overall?
Exactly. It's not like we had the 9th overall pick where it's like, you know what, Fields, Trey Lance, Trevor Lawrence were all gone. He was there. He had his pick minus Trevor Lawrence. He had his pick, and any one of those guys between Trey Lance, Justin Fields, and Zach Wilson could have went 2nd overall. And I've told you this since it happened. I still think to this day we should have drafted Justin Fields.
You did say that, and I will totally give you the credit for that, absolutely. But if you don't have the confidence in Zach Wilson, then why the hell you drafted him 2nd overall?
Exactly.
If you don't have the confidence, like if you don't think he can run the offense, or worse yet, you're not sure, then why are you speaking up? Do we really think that Robert Saleh picked Zach Wilson? I mean, what are we looking at here, guys?
And even like to go off that, like he said, he mentioned that Zach Wilson should have sat the first year or so, just get the offense under his belt. No, you don't draft 2nd overall players to be like, you know what, you're gonna sit out a year, and see how this goes. No, if you're drafting someone 2nd overall, whether it's a defensive end, offensive lineman, wide receiver, running back, quarterback, whoever it is, they're starting day 1 and playing all 16 games for the rest of their career for that team. You can't be like, you know what, Zach should have started.
True.
No.
Okay, I'm going to disagree with you there. Because quite frankly, if you feel that he's not ready to play, then there's no reason why you throw him out there week 1. You gave him the starting job. You gave it to him. He didn't even have to compete. He didn't have to do anything. Robert Saleh said he is our week 1 quarterback. You didn't even bring in a veteran. Now, when that first went down last year, I didn't say shit about that. I was like, all right, whatever. We'll go with Mike White. I don't care. Right? I didn't care. Everybody was making a bigger deal about it than me.
Mm-hmm.
But if you knew that he wasn't ready to play, then why did you throw him out to the wolves, basically, is my question. And again, I'm not making excuses for Zach Wilson. 2nd year in the league, you got to show me a step forward from the previous year. And he took a mega step back.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't blame Zach Wilson for that as much as I used to. I am going to throw some shade at Robert Saleh. I am going to throw some shade at Mike LaFleur. Because you didn't put this kid in a good position to at least be confident, let alone be a winning quarterback. Yeah, you gave him the weapons, but you basically gave this kid the ball and you threw him out there when he wasn't really ready.
Right.
It was pretty obvious he was not ready. Did you see the 49ers throwing Trey Lance out there week 1 after they started him?
Yep.
See what I mean? And if the Jets knew that, and the Jets didn't feel comfortable with him as a starting quarterback, then they should have fucking did something about it. And they should have said, you know what, we're gonna bring in this veteran that we feel confident with. Even if it was a guy like C.J. Beathard who knows LaFleur's offense, who played in San Francisco when Saleh was a defensive coordinator. And Zach can learn behind that. So it's, again, I do blame Zach Wilson to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't blame him as much as I used to. Because I think that Mike LaFleur did not put him in a great position to be successful.
Right.
But it gets worse now. And when we look back now, we have, so the Jets fire Mike LaFleur and they bring in Nathaniel Hackett, which I'm fine with. I actually don't have a problem with this hire. And I'm a little surprised at how much Jet fans aren't really that pissed about it either. Unless I'm just looking on the wrong channels. The fact is the guy is an experienced offensive coordinator. He took he was the offensive coordinator for Blake Bortles when they went to the AFC Championship game. He's got a very good, he was very good in Green Bay, even though he may not have called the plays, but he was very efficient in the red zone, which the Jets desperately need right now. I mean, how many times have we settled for freaking field goals when we're on the 5? So, but more importantly, he's an experienced coordinator. He's a guy who's got a very good resume. Some good, some bad. It's not perfect. Nobody has a perfect resume in the NFL. He's an experienced play caller. And that checks the box for me because that's what you need right now. Now, people are automatically going to pivot to his 1 year in Denver where he was brutal. And like Saleh said, you have to own that.
Yeah.
You have to own that. And I'm sure Hackett does. And maybe Nathaniel Hackett just wants to say, you know what? I need to redeem myself after that shitty year in Denver. So I want to do what I can to turn the Jets around on an offensive level. Good. Let's hope it works out. But of course, now all the speculation is around the Jets landing Aaron Rodgers. And this is what I'm going to tell you guys. I want Aaron Rodgers. I'd be lying if I said I didn't want Aaron Rodgers. But here's the problem, and this is where I'm going to start attacking the fans, which I love to do. Okay? Jet fans are a funny bunch because they don't want this guy. They don't want this guy. They don't want this guy. But they can never tell you what they want. Mm-hmm. They don't know how to make a stand and say, I want quarterback X. I want Derek Carr. I want Jimmy Garoppolo. I want Baker Mayfield. Okay? They can't tell you, but you know what they do that they do so well? They find a way they nitpick, and they nitpick for a reason not to sign somebody, not to trade for somebody. Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback you will have had probably since Namath. And you're telling me that you have a problem trading a first-round pick for him? Are you kidding me right now? Like, what the hell are Jets fans smoking? Do they just enjoy being miserable? Because I just don't get how you could sit there and say, I don't want Aaron Rodgers. It's going to be way too expensive. The cap hit's going to be ridiculous. We have to give up our future. What future? We already have a young nucleus. Like, look at all the guys on our team that are young right now. I'll just ramble them off again. Elijah Vera Tucker, Michael Carter, Breece Hall, Zonovan Knight, Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, Michael Clemens, Carl Lawson, Quinnen Williams, Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed. This team is youth.
Yeah.
Bryce Huff, Jermaine Johnson.
The Jets are a win-now team. They really are, man. When you watch the defense, we had a top 10 defense last year and a bottom 3 offense. Something's got to freaking change, and it's got to be the quarterback. And if you bring in a guy like Aaron Rodgers, someone who's the elite of the elite of quarterbacks, someone who's granted, yeah, he's only been in one Super Bowl, been to the AFC Championship numerous times. He's been there. He knows how to get there. And if you bring in a guy like that, that only ups the game of guys like Breece Hall, Michael Carter, Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, maybe even Denzel Mims. Who the hell knows? And you have guys like C.J. Uzama, Tyler Conklin, Jeremy Ruckert. The offense changes. If you bring in a guy like Aaron Rodgers, the whole nucleus of that offense changes dynamically.
But it's so frustrating because it's like, again, they don't know what the hell they want. Mm-hmm. They want a brand new quarterback. They ran Mike White out of town after he had one bad game against the Seahawks. By the way, deja vu for when he had that bad game against Buffalo. Nobody ever talked about him again, right? I didn't see Elijah Moore praising Mike White after they got their asses kicked by the Seahawks. What's the latest from Michael Carter on Mike White? Nobody wants to talk about him now, right? And you ran his ass out of town too. I don't want Aaron Rodgers. He's 39 years old. I don't know if he's going to be here for the long haul he needs to be here for at least 2 years. His cap hit's freaking crazy. They have to give up all these picks and everything. I don't want Derek Carr because Rich Cimini told me in an article that he doesn't play well in cold weather games, so I don't want him. I don't want Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't want – this was my personal favorite, and this is where Jake – if you haven't listened to Jake's show on YouTube, you got to watch it. Because Jake is like, I don't understand what these people are complaining about. You're complaining about Lamar Jackson, right? Lamar Jackson is 26 years old, and he's a former MVP. There is a decent chance the Ravens don't bring him back. Or they franchise him, and they're going to trade him. Why wouldn't you want a 26-year-old MVP? Now, yes, injuries are always a concern. He's missed 10 games over the last 2 years, and this issue with the MCL looked really bad, especially when he didn't travel with the team. So it looked really bad. But my question is why wouldn't you want that?
Right.
So to recap, the Jet fan doesn't want Aaron Rodgers. They don't want Derek Carr. They don't want Jimmy Garoppolo, and they don't want Lamar Jackson. Then who do you want to be the quarterback of this team next year? Because you don't want Zach Wilson. It's pretty obvious you don't want Joe Flacco. And I'm not really sure if you want Mike White. So who do you want to be the quarterback? Do you really think Ryan Tannehill is the answer? Do you really think that Marcus Mariota is the answer? Do you really think that Baker Mayfield is the answer? Make up your fucking minds, Jet fans. Because it's just getting so goddamn tiresome listening to you bitch and complain. I don't want this guy because this. It's like you make up these excuses. You nitpick with these excuses. You wouldn't sign up for Aaron Rodgers right now, Clint.
I'd sign up for that's who I want. That's who I want. I want Aaron Rodgers.
Can you imagine Aaron Rodgers in a Jets uniform? Every game will be sold out. You'll have primetime games up the ass. You don't want Lamar Jackson?
I want Lamar Jackson.
Same thing. Same exact thing. Ticket sales will go through the roof. Shit, ticket sales will probably go through the roof for Derek Carr. And he's probably the guy I want the least out of these four. I like Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he's a good quarterback. I just get very concerned with the injuries. If the Jets got him, I'd be I'd be happy with it. You might want to get somebody good to back him up, though, just in case.
Right.
I don't understand it, man. I don't. I try to figure it out, and again, they're just never happy. But what also adds to it is are the Jets beat writers, because they're the fucking worst. They're always they're always nitpick these little things. Oh, Derek Carr is 2-8 in cold weather games. Something to think about. That's you basically saying, I don't want Derek Carr here. I mean, in many ways, everybody was right about last season. We were a quarterback away from being a playoff team.
Right.
And it was just more of the same. Jet fans are never happy. They never want these guys. I don't get it. What do you want to do? You want to just keep drafting in the middle to high of the first round? For what?
Yeah,
like I don't want to fire Robert Saleh after this year. I want him to get an extension. I want Joe Douglas to be here for another 4 years. I don't want to keep looking for general managers every 3-4 years. I
just
don't
gotta
get
figure out something.
And no, then just go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, when it comes to this offseason, I truly believe that they'll find their quarterback. And I'm praying, because they brought in Nathaniel Hackett, I'm praying it's Aaron Rodgers.
Don't think that the minute they bring in Nathaniel Hackett, it's okay, we've got to get Aaron Rodgers. Because that's what they're also trying to tie into things.
Yeah.
If you don't get Aaron Rodgers, then it makes no sense to hire Nathaniel Hackett. Here's the thing, though. Any of those other coordinator candidates, were you really overly impressed with any of those guys?
The only other coordinator candidate that I would have taken would have been Frank Reich. That would have been it. He would have been the only other one.
But again, it's like, okay, this goes to show you how bad the coaching situation is this year, like the coaching candidates. I think they all suck, if you want my honest opinion. When Frank Reich is the best candidate out of all the people that are in the market for a job, that's a bad thing for coaching right now.
Mm-hmm.
You have a lot of inexperience. You have, now that, the hot name right now looks like it's going to be DeMeco Ryans, who looks like he could be on his way to the Texans, but I'm not even sure if that's the case yet. But none of the other coaching candidates, and like, quite frankly, do I really think Frank Reich is that good of a coaching candidate right now as a head coach? He was in Indianapolis. The team was incredibly mediocre. He had Phillip Rivers and Matt Ryan. He couldn't do anything with them. When he got Carson Wentz, everybody went crazy about that trade because, he's reunited with Frank Reich and he's going to be amazing. And Frank Reich summed up his coaching career in one game. And it was 2 years ago. It was a do-or-die game for the Indianapolis Colts. If they won the game, they were in the playoffs. They were playing a 2-win Jacksonville team at the time with Trevor Lawrence, who was still raw, and they got destroyed.
Yep. I remember.
They got destroyed. And that was in Jacksonville, too. That team had nothing to play for. Nothing. Zero to play for. And you're telling me that Frank Reich is going to go into Carolina and magically turn this around?
Mm-hmm.
And here's the worst part about it. He was in a crappy division with the Colts, and he still couldn't get them anywhere. Frank Reich was a pipe dream for an OC, so let's get that out of the way. All the other candidates were like, yeah, Joe Brady had his trades, but, Josh Allen didn't really look that great. A lot of turnovers, wasn't really, you got Stephon Diggs yelling at him on the sideline for crying out loud. Mm-hmm. Is that an indictment on Joe Brady? Or is that an indictment on Ken Dorsey? Marcus Brady, he was Reich's coordinator in Indianapolis. Don't really know much about the guy. Yeah, I wouldn't have had a problem with him. But, again, does it really move the needle? Like, I'm not saying Nathaniel Hackett moves the needle, like, all the way. But he gives you an experienced coordinator. And here's the worst part. There was going to be a team that was going to hire Nathaniel Hackett.
Oh, yeah. Like, Nathaniel Hackett could just be one of those guys where being a head coach, it doesn't work out for them, unfortunately. He just can't knock it as a head coach. And we've seen it time and time again with coordinators who we think are going to.
Won't be the first time. Sure as hell won't be the last time.
No, exactly. So maybe, like I said, him going back to being an OC, it's just what he can do. It's just what it is. Like I said, we've seen it with guys like Todd Bowles, Steve Spagnuolo. We've seen it. We've seen it in the past. And
Wade Phillips. Yeah, we could go on and on. I could even say, to a lesser extent, that could wind up being Robert Saleh.
Yeah, Robert Saleh.
But I'm saying, if you Jet fans don't want Aaron Rodgers, you're out of your minds. You're all out of your minds. And the thing is, like, that's only my proof that you will never be satisfied. Never. Never in a million years will you be satisfied. You'll always be complaining about something with this team. I don't want to get my hopes up for Rodgers. I just don't. I've been let down more times than I can count. Would I love it? Of course I would. I would love to see Aaron Rodgers in a Jets uniform. But I just can't get my hopes up. It's like one of those, I'll believe it when I see it.
No, you're absolutely right. It's one of I'm not gonna lose sleep over oh my God, are we gonna get Aaron Rodgers or not? But I do feel confident that he could get here.
But the Jets have to be careful too. Here's why the Jets have to be careful. You can't let this Aaron Rodgers stuff drag out.
Right.
You can't let it drag out for months and months, and then it doesn't happen, because then you're going to be screwed. You have to make a gut check decision right after the Super Bowl. Are we all in on Rodgers, or are we all out on Rodgers?
Right.
Because you don't want to lose the opportunity to trade for Derek Carr. You don't want to lose the opportunity to go after Jimmy Garoppolo, and you don't want to lose the opportunity to go after Lamar Jackson. You have to make a gut check decision at that moment. Do you want him or not?
Right.
Because if you let this drag out and all those quarterbacks go off the board, you're going to be stuck with Baker Mayfield or Jacoby Brissett quarterbacking this team next year, and you definitely don't want that. You definitely don't want it. That's going to be a colossal disaster. And
like I was just saying, I feel pretty I have confidence though that Rodgers could get here just because of the sole fact that Woody Johnson. This is the first time I've ever heard Woody Johnson come out and really say, I want to spend big money this offseason. You never really heard him say that. You've always saw it happen. Oh, yeah.
Woody gets a bad rap, though. Woody gets a bad rap from this fan base on so many different levels. And I don't understand why, because he spends the money when you guys want him to spend the money. Mm-hmm. When they're $100 million with cap space, they go out and spend money. He gets you guys what you want, and you still shit on the guy.
Right.
Have there been some blunders? Of course there have been. But again, it's just he wants to win. They already know they're not running it back with Zach Wilson as a starting quarterback in 23. And honestly, bringing in Aaron Rodgers can only help Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
It can make Zach Wilson a better quarterback, because then Aaron Rodgers will just be in his face and be like, what the hell are you doing?
Right.
Give me a fucking break, dude. You're a number 2 overall pick. Aaron Rodgers has no filter. He has zero filter.
He'll tell you how it is. He will tell you how it is.
That was another thing everybody said. Oh, well, he's such a lightweight with Green Bay media. Can he handle the New York media? Yeah, he can handle the New York media. I just don't understand why you wouldn't want him. I know he's 39 years old. He's got to play. He's got to give you at least 2 years.
Yeah, all right. You're absolutely right. And the Jets have the offense for him. They have the players.
Now, I can forgive all that, okay? But now the Jets have even bigger problem. And you know what that is, Clem? It's an immaturity issue. I am sick and tired of hearing stories now about Jets players mouthing off to coaches, shitting on the quarterback. Now you got Quinnen Williams taking a cheap shot at the offense during a tweet with Joey about Nick Bosa and everything. The problem is this shit's uncalled for. But you know who I blame for that? I blame Saleh.
Mm-hmm.
Because Saleh lets these guys do whatever the hell they want. That's why. He's too nice of a guy with this team, with this roster. He loves being the player's coach. He loves being the guy that everybody hears is passionate and everything. I'm sorry, but half of these Jets players on the roster have done squat. Elijah Moore has done nothing. He sure as hell hasn't done anything to warrant cursing out a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Garrett Wilson, while I love him, had a great rookie season. I'm sorry, but you cannot bitch out your quarterback because the ball doesn't go perfectly into your hands. You can't do that. It's a team, it just looks like you're becoming a me first player. You can't keep doing shit like that. And now Quinton Williams is taking a shot at the offense. And what I loved about the Jets fans is on Twitter was they were trying to like let it fit their narrative. So it was like, oh yeah, he's talking to wow, he really threw Zach Wilson under the bus. He didn't throw Zach Wilson under the bus. He threw Mike White under the bus. He threw Elijah Moore under the bus. He threw Garrett Wilson under the bus. He threw CJ Uzama under the bus. He threw the entire offensive line under the bus. And he threw Mike LaFleur under the bus. That was not a comment directly only at Zach Wilson.
No.
That was a comment directed at the entire offense.
Yep.
Okay? And I thought it was such an unnecessary comment, and it was a douchey move by Quinton Williams.
It was. There was no need for that. We know. Look, Quinton, we get it that you're frustrated. Look, like I said, the Jets had a top 10 odd defense this year. But there's no excuse, especially when you're one of the leaders on the team. You just got yourself your first Pro Bowl. You had an All-Pro season, first team All-Pro. Let's not forget that. You had a great year, and this is how you're gonna show your teammates, like, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna badmouth the offense. No, you don't do that.
But that's what I mean. Remember Salah's first year? How bad was the defense that year?
Yeah.
Did you ever see Braxton Berrios ripping the defense? Did you ever see Zach Wilson taking shots at the defense? Or Michael Carter? Or Ty Johnson? Or Corey Davis? Or Elijah Vera Tucker? Or, anybody?
No.
See what I mean? But it's like now it just grazes drama. And what I saw was a common thread among the responses to his thing. This is what I heard. Ready? Well, he's not wrong. And again, that's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter if he's wrong or right. Yeah, you know what? Technically, he's not wrong. But it's irrelevant. And the reason why it's irrelevant is you are an employee of the New York Jets. You get paid millions of dollars by the New York Jets. And then, sorry, but like a bitch, he deletes the tweet. He deletes the tweet because, I don't know, he probably figured, okay, I'll leave it up for a second. You know how many followers Quinton Williams has?
A lot.
Do you don't think anybody screenshotted that? Is he that dumb?
Apparently.
But it's an immaturity issue. Elijah Moore bitching and complaining about not getting enough targets, then wants a trade. In his second year in the NFL, the guy's already requesting a trade. During a winning streak, mind you. You got Garrett Wilson almost on the verge of tantrums when he's not getting the ball or he's not getting perfect passes to him, to whatever. Calling out Mike LaFleur, saying the offense is predictable. I mean, look, I love Garrett Wilson. I'm not saying get rid of him. I mean, I keep him forever. But there's an immaturity. You're not at Ohio State anymore. You're not at Ohio State where it was easier for whoever the quarterback was, whether it was C.J. Stroud or, whoever else was a quarterback, Justin Fields. Right? I mean,
right. These guys got to grow.
You have Elijah Moore cursing out Mike LaFleur. Tell him to go fuck himself. Quinton Williams running his mouth now about the offense on Twitter. These are immaturity issues. This is all on Robert Saleh because he lets it happen. He lets it all happen.
I was going to say that and the fact that there's really no leadership on that offense, Because when you look at the Jets offense, who's been there the longest on that offense? Connor McGovern? Is he a leader? Is Corey Davis a leader on that offense? No, none of these guys are.
The bigger problem, and the bigger problem is that I'm sorry, but this is unacceptable. This is a coach that has to step in and say, you can't do that shit. Don't put my quarterback on last. Imagine the attitude. Honestly, in Zach Wilson's defense, if I knew that my teammates wanted nothing to do with me on the field, I'd be playing pretty shitty too. If I knew that my defense, you good?
Yeah, it could like cut out like for a hot second, but I think we're all good. Yeah.
If I knew that my team wanted nothing to do with me on the field, how do you expect me to play under those conditions?
You're right. You're right. How can I play? Like if I'm Zach Wilson or anyone on that offense, let alone, how can I play knowing that my defense doesn't have my back and thinking we all suck? That's not team.
More importantly, how does the guy who's calling plays for me, if I know that he has no confidence in me to be a good quarterback in the league, how do you expect me to play under that? Especially in this city?
No,
You're just setting the guy up to fail at this point.
You're absolutely right. Like
the culture has not. Let me get one thing straight. The culture has not changed one bit at Florham Park. They're a good team. I'm not saying they're not, but they're getting that ego. That it reminds me a lot of the Rex Ryan days when the players were always talking shit. Rex was always talking shit, and then they get their ass kicked on the field, and Rex would be like, "Oh, well, I don't know what happened," and whatever, or he'd make up some excuse or whatever. Can't keep doing stuff like this, though. These guys have got to grow up. It was very alarming that towards the end of the season, they didn't show up one time.
Mm-hmm.
These were bad teams. These were like mediocre teams. The Seahawks with Geno Smith, the Lions with Goff. And as fans, they run right to their defense. Oh, man, Elijah Moore, I totally get it, man. You got to get the ball more. Like, you're trying to kiss the guy's ass like you're trying to be his best friend. You think he gives a rat's ass what you think?
No. It's like I understand what they're saying. That I get it 100%, but there's no need for that. And that's why, there's no real leadership on that offense. There's nothing really there. Like, yeah, on defense you have a leadership in CJ Mosley, but other than that, when you're top player, let's just say player in general, and Quinnen Williams, you're throwing shit at your offense. You got to control him somehow. And like you said, that comes from Salah, and that also I think comes from the fact of no. I can't seem to figure out what's going on. Can you hear me? Really? I can hear you. Check 1, 2. How now? Anything? Anything now? Okay. Sorry for the technical difficulties, everyone. But Craig's absolutely right. This comes from the head coach. Like, you got to control these guys, and yeah, we all understand that the offense was the problem this year. That's a fact. We know the Jets had a top 10 defense, and the Jets had a bottom 3 offense. We all know that, but when your leader, your top player on your team, Quinnen Williams, is throwing shit like that, it's so unnecessary. And even Elijah Moore cursing out Mike LaFleur. Like, who are you to curse out Mike LaFleur? It's only your second year in the league. Granted, yeah, obviously the offense does not work, but that is not how you do it. Some of these players, they just don't know when to grow up. I'll say that. And even this isn't just the Jets. This is just around the league in general. When these players don't know how to grow the F up. Like, you're in the NFL, act like a pro. You see some of these other guys that come into the NFL, and they're pros already. They're mature, they're ready to go, they're ready to play. Well, granted, yeah, maybe they may be on winning teams or not. Who cares? Look at a guy like Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has been in this league for, 3-4 years now, maybe? The guy's acted like a pro since day one. He's been very, very to himself, very, very, and look what the Eagles are now. Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes, another example. He's been in the league for 6 years now at this point. He was a pro since the beginning. No problems, shit like that. Nothing like that. Like, you don't hear problems with these guys because I guess it becomes maybe it's because they already have leadership on that team. Maybe it comes from the coaches. Who knows? But the Jets have to control themselves and get these guys under control.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Any better?
Can you hear
me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I can hear you. Let me rephrase that. I can never not hear you. I always could have heard you.
Yeah, my computer just did something really little weird, and I think that's what happened. I'm not sure. Something came up with like Adobe and kind of screwed. It kind of screwed up something. Not your fault.
I was like, goddamn Adobe.
Now you just have to do some heavy editing. So we'll end it on this because I want to get into the Bo Horvat stuff really quickly in the Royal Rumble because I got to go soon. At the end of the day, if you don't want Aaron Rodgers, you're just out of your mind. If you can't create reasons why you don't want players, you complain endlessly about making a change at quarterback, but when the names come out right away, it's I don't want him, I don't want him, I don't want him. You're not getting Patrick Mahomes in a trade. You're not getting Joe Burrow in a trade. You're not getting Justin Herbert in a trade. Okay? The easiest way to do this is to draft a kid, develop him into a superstar, so that way you can retain his control for the next 5 years and you don't have to worry about the quarterback position. Unfortunately, that didn't work out this way. But if you have the opportunity right now to land an Aaron Rodgers, and all it costs you is a first-round pick and maybe a second-round pick or a third and a fourth, you do it. And you don't think twice. You don't think twice. Let Joe Douglas figure out the cap issues. Joe Douglas is a pretty good magician at that stuff, so I would expect nothing less out of him. But this team is a quarterback away. Yes, I do believe that. I do believe they are a quarterback away from being a serious contender. So.
No, you're absolutely right. The Jets really are. And like I mentioned earlier, you bring in a guy like Aaron Rodgers, it changes the whole nucleus of this team. You know, you bring in leadership. You bring in an experienced guy who's been to the playoffs. You bring in arguably one of the best quarterbacks of all time to this team. It changes it. It really does. It changes the whole.
I do believe that. I think he does want to come here. I don't know why I think that. I just do. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe something's being worked on right now.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like, I mean, I don't necessarily know if hiring Nathaniel Hackett is it was like, okay, well, we'll hire Hackett and that'll get us to Aaron Rodgers. I don't necessarily think Saleh thinks that way.
No.
I don't think so because it didn't work in Denver, so I don't think he would do that. I just think he likes Nathaniel Hackett and he knows him.
Right.
He knows him from when they worked together in Jacksonville. So he's going to go with somebody he feels comfortable with. But I mean, here's my question. Very simple. If you don't want Derek Carr, you don't want Jimmy Garoppolo, you don't want Aaron Rodgers, then who do you want? Who do you want to be the quarterback of this team next year? You don't want Mike White. You don't want Zach Wilson. So who do you want? I don't know. Just get a quarterback. You need a quarterback. Okay, well, who do you want? See, nobody wants to answer that question. Nobody. Nobody wants to answer that question because nobody wants to be wrong. So, all right. Let's do the Rumble now, and then we'll talk quickly about the Bo Horvat trade, and then we'll call it a night. Royal Rumble in itself, thought it was a good pay-per-view. The men's Rumble was really good. It was pretty predictable Cody Rhodes is going to win it. That was kind of – but the one thing I loved that they did was they gave Gunther his time to shine.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I love because I'm a big fan of Imperium. So I was glad to see – I hate calling him Gunther. So I'm just going to call him Walter because he deserves to be called Walter because that's his freaking name. Okay? Walter deserves to be in like the heavyweight championship picture now. And I think that's where they're going once Reigns drops the belts.
Yes.
Okay? Because now you're going to see a lot of other people come out of left field to be, contenders and all that stuff. So I was pretty happy with that. I thought once again Logan Paul was good. The move he did with Ricochet was insane.
Oh, that was wild. That was
And
freaking wild.
Now, I was a little surprised they let Logan Paul eliminate Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's going to be Seth Rollins, Logan Paul at Mania. We already know that's going to happen. Although, and when I was talking to Keith, he made a good point. He would be down to see Logan Paul against Ricochet.
That would be good. Look, I don't like the guy, but I will say Logan Paul has very much proven himself inside the ring. Like, he's
committed. I think he's a committed, like he doesn't take it lightly. He takes it very seriously.
Yeah, he's
in tremendous shape. He really does. He does the moves well. You know, he's a tool. That's what he is. He's a bit of a tool, but for the most part, he does these things well.
Yeah, I can't not, like I said, like you mentioned, he's a tool, he's a douche, whatever you want to call him, a knob. He for what he's done in this ring, it's been very good. Like I can't knock him for that. Like he's looked very good, and I like you mentioned the spot he did with Ricochet during the Rumble. That was wild. How often do you see superstars do that? Not even just superstars, let alone celebrity superstars that came in and did do that. None. That was insane.
You know, I thought it was cool they brought Edge back. I was kind of hoping to see maybe a couple of the NXT guys like Braun Breaker or Carmelo Hayes or something like that.
That was another thing too. Not a lot of surprises this year.
No, and the funny thing was that's why I think they botched it with Cody, because I think they could have had a killer surprise that Cody was returning at the Rumble. So, so the men's Rumble was good. The pitch black match was crap.
Oh yeah.
Didn't like it at all. And it, you know, when I was watching the match, I remembered something I had read about a month ago when Rollins was interviewed. I think he was on some podcast or something like that. And he basically said that he didn't like working stories with Bray Wyatt because he didn't feel like he felt like his character was like done after a feud with Bray Wyatt. You know, I think this was when Wyatt was the Fiend. And he said, you know, he was no longer the Beast Slayer. That was when he was the Beast Slayer.
Right.
Then he had to like change his whole character around because he just said it did nothing for him. It kind of buried him a little bit. And he basically said that he was like, you know, I don't think I would ever work a program with Bray Wyatt ever again because of that. And you kind of saw the same things with LA Knight. LA Knight, for what it was worth, did his best mic work during this feud. I mean, he cuts a very good promo. He is a good wrestler. But it was pretty obvious that match was completely dominated by Bray Wyatt. And it did nothing for me. And it wasn't really that's a match that needs to be taped in advance. It's not a match you do live. Because technically it wasn't a pitch black match. It was a black light match. Because then it was like a weird way. It was like an easy way to show off Bray's new face paint or his mask or whatever it was, and with the red eyes and all everything. And it was, so for me, that match, it did nothing for me. The women's match I barely watched, wasn't really into it. I heard, from what I read, Bianca Belair did circles around Alexa Bliss.
Yeah.
Right? The women's Rumble I thought was really good. The only problem is, and I didn't have a problem with Rhea Ripley winning. Mm-hmm. It was more or less, you kind of felt that they were setting the seeds for a feud, for a mixed tag at Mania between Edge and Beth Phoenix against Rhea Ripley and I guess either Damian Priest or Finn Balor. Right? But now Rhea Ripley won the Rumble, so she's going to go to Mania. So I guess they're not really doing that anymore.
Right.
It was a really good ending, though. Like when Asuka missed, hit Liv in the face. I thought that was all. It was very well done. The only thing I don't like that WWE does, and they've been doing it a lot lately, especially with the Rumble, is that for some reason they've been very big on having whoever's number one going a really long time in the Rumble. I don't think you need to do that all the time.
No.
It's okay if Madcap Moss is number one and he gets eliminated. last year was Brock Lesnar when he was eliminating guys left and right.
Right.
And then Drew McIntyre eventually eliminated him. Or was it the year before?
Like I thought they did it good this year with Gunther going Walter.
Yeah, and again, when you're doing that to build up somebody into a potential main eventer, then I'm all in.
Yeah.
But you don't have to do it every year. And I feel like they're doing that way too much. It's kind of getting a little stale.
Yeah.
The Reigns match again. We've seen this match 100 times. I've seen this match 100 times. It's the same match. Kicks out of every finisher 5 times, and then he finally gets some help from the Usos or whoever, or hits Kevin. I'm surprised Kevin Owens didn't get a concussion from getting hit on the head with the stairs.
I know.
Reigns hit him hard. That was a hard shot to the head. And I'm fine with the Sami Zayn thing, but they didn't do it right. They should have did it during. They should have did it during the match.
No, I thought they did it good. I thought it was very well done, to be perfectly honest.
I think they should have did it during the match. And the reason why they did that is because no Solo, no Usos at ringside, and I think it would have been so much better. It was like he hit him, and you could tell that he barely hit Roman Reigns. He didn't even hit him that hard.
Right.
And then he just got his ass kicked, and then I was like, but I don't need to see a 20-minute beatdown of Sami Zayn. So, overall, it was a good show. Wasn't a great one. The Rumble matches were great. The women's match sucked. The Pitch Black match sucked. And the Reigns match, it's just the same. Was nothing extraordinary, but it wasn't bad. It was basically just more of the same.
See, the one thing that got me was that, for the Rumble at least, that everyone knew Sami was going to win, but like you mentioned with the surprises, if there were some prizes in there, then you could at least attest that, they could win the Rumble. If Sami was in the Rumble, you could have attested that Sami could have won the Rumble. If you heard The Rock's music, you knew The Rock was winning the Rumble. Mm-hmm. It was there was just no surprise. Booker T coming out was cool, but again, you knew that other than really Seth Rollins, no one was really going to win the Rumble.
You knew Cody was going to win.
Exactly. The only way Cody wasn't going to win is, like I said, is if you smell. That's the only way you knew Cody was not going to win.
Well, there was a big rumor going around that Austin was getting paid, was offered a ton of money to fight Reigns at Mania, which I'm glad they're not doing. But it was I thought that was a prime time for Reigns to drop the belt, one of the belts at the Royal Rumble.
But now what I think they're going to do is I think they're going to set this up somehow, some way. He's going to lose it one night to Cody, and he's going to lose the other one night to Sami.
Honestly, you know who I could see him losing it to, although I don't think WWE would go down this road? I could see him losing it to Jey Uso.
Yeah, because he walked out. He walked out with
Jey Uso.
I'm okay with that. Look, when they originally had that feud with Roman and Jey, I was all about Jey winning the WWE title. I was like, okay, this is different. We haven't seen this before. This is cool. I'm all about this.
So overall, it was a good Rumble. It was, it was very entertaining. I think the Pitch Black match should have been more along the lines of the Firefly Funhouse match, the Boneyard match, one of those matches that's filmed in advance. Oh, Klim's got breaking news.
Okay, so breaking news. Speaking of WWE, tonight on Raw, Rhea Ripley has chosen, drumroll, Charlotte Flair to face at WrestleMania.
No kidding.
I'm actually shocked. I'm actually shocked at that one. I thought she would. I thought she would have picked Bianca.
I have a feeling that means the Judgment Day are going to SmackDown.
Probably.
When they do the draft, I think Judgment Day is going to go to SmackDown pretty soon.
Yeah, but Rhea picked Charlotte. They got history.
Yeah, no, that's true. I'm very surprised.
I thought it would have been Bianca, to be perfectly honest, but I'm okay with that because I figured, Bianca versus Rhea, that would have been a great match, and then you have someone like Becky versus Charlotte or Bayley versus Charlotte, something along those lines,
Yeah, I got to figure out how they're going to do with Bianca now, who's going to be the number one contender for Bianca Belair.
Right.
They might be able to. They might do something with Liv Morgan. They might do something with Asuka. They might do something because they were the last ones in the Rumble. I have a feeling the Becky Lynch Bayley feud isn't over yet, so I think they will. Those two won't be in. But I have a feeling something good could definitely happen. Could see the return of Naomi, although I don't know. Throwing her in a title match, I think would be bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't sound like Sasha Banks is coming back anytime soon.
No.
But
No, definitely not.
all right, before we get out of here, we're going to the first big trade of with the trade deadline in the NHL is still about a month away. The Islanders make a big move today, acquiring Bo Hobart from the Vancouver Canucks. In exchange, they trade Anthony Beauvillier, Atu Rati, and a conditional first-round pick. The first-round pick is conditional, as it is top 12 protected. If the pick falls within the top 12, then the Canucks will get the Islanders 2024 first round. So again, if I didn't bitch out fans enough, Islander fans are no different than Jet fans. They just complain. They complain and they complain and they complain and they complain. And then when the Islanders finally do something, they complain about that too. So, look, Hobart is a 30-goal scorer. He has 32 goals on the season. He has 55 points, I think, on the season for the Canucks. Okay. He immediately becomes one of our best players by far. And in return, the Islanders gave up Anthony Beauvillier, who stunk, Rati, who is unproven, and a conditional first-round pick, which I'm fine with. I don't care about prospects. I don't live and die by prospects. It means nothing to me. As far as I'm concerned, the Islanders have a young nucleus already in place. I don't care about young prospects. I just don't give a shit. I want to see this team back in the playoffs. Okay? We have been begging Lou Lamoriello to make a big move for a long time. When he didn't go after anybody in the offseason, we just said, okay, maybe it has to do with the fact that maybe it's just a COVID season or whatever. I don't know. And they finally go out and get somebody, Clem. 30-goal scorer, guy's having a huge year. It is a contract year for Hobart. He's a free agent after this year. Islanders want to sign him long term. And after all that, Clem, Islander fans are still not happy. Because of course they're not happy. Social media fans are never happy with anything. All they're happy with is bitching and moaning on social media. I don't get it. I don't understand why people don't like this trade. I have no clue. You want the team in the playoffs? This is how they're going to get in the playoffs. That's it. This is how they're going to get in the playoffs, Club. They're going to make trades. They have to make trades. They don't have – I don't get it. Pairing him, putting him with Barzell, who I can't stand. Lee and Nelson – that's 4 quality players right there on your 2 lines. You're going to get Wallstrom back eventually, and you have a young nucleus. You have a very young nucleus right now.
Right.
You still have Matt Barzell. You still have Adam Pelech and Mayfield and Ryan Pulak, Noah Dobson. Romanov is only like 25 years old, I think. Sorokin. Wallstrom. Simon Holmstrom. I mean, you have a pretty decent nucleus right there.
And especially, too, when you have a great goalie in Ilya Sorokin.
I mean, part of me thinks they're not done. I have a feeling they're going to make another move. Although you might see it more of a way of maybe trying to possibly trading Varlamov to get maybe a pick back. You're not going to get a first-round pick back for Varlamov, but, you could get – they're going to get like a third-rounder maybe.
Yeah.
It's possible, if they want to go down that road. I mean, Beauvillier, I've been saying for a while, the Islanders have to get rid of. He's just way too inconsistent.
Stinks.
I mean, I don't get how Islander fans are not excited about this trade. I just don't get it.
It's a perfect trade. It's like you mentioned. He's a 50-point scorer or a 50-point person already. He has 30 32 goals on the season, 23 assists. This is perfect. You need a goal scorer. This is what the Islanders have been lacking for years. He coming onto the Islanders, he's already the top goal scorer and top assist man on the team already.
By the way, you spelled this name wrong.
Oh, I did? Oh, Horvat. Horvat.
Listen, the team has been terrible putting the puck in the net. Granted, they finished the first half of the season on a 2-game winning streak. But even both games, they only scored 2 goals per game. Their power play is atrocious. I mean, you got to do something, right? I mean, you can't keep the same team. And I think Lou wants to try to go out and get this team back in the playoffs.
No, you're absolutely right.
Maybe the break comes to them at just the right time.
Craig, me and you have been saying this since they got rid of Tavares. You know, since Tavares didn't sign back, they have yet to replace him in the offseason. Granted, yeah, the only real person they literally went after was Panarin. And the only reason they didn't get Panarin was because he decided to choose the lesser contract and go to the Rangers. Can't fault the guy.
They went after guys like Nazem Kadri, but they couldn't clear cap space to get him. Otherwise, they probably would have signed him.
Or Forsberg, the guy. Oh no, not Forsberg. The I can't think of his name. The dude who was on the Avalanche.
Oh, Landeskog.
Yes, him.
I mean, they went after guys, but I mean, right now, I just think that the team needed to do something. Mm-hmm. They were a boring team to watch. They were getting outplayed every night on the ice.
Yes.
Losing 2 games to the Arizona Coyotes, which is just a disgrace. Okay? The fact is, you got to do something. Lou thinks they can go. This is a win now. This is a playoff team. This is not a rebuilding franchise. Not right now.
No.
This is a rebuilding team. This is not a rebuilding team. Excuse me. This is a playoff team. This is a team gunning for the playoffs. They are in a win now mode. Win now teams take risks. This, in my opinion, is a calculated risk. Now, the downside will be he's got to sign. They got to sign him long term.
Right.
Because you don't want to give up a first-round pick and 2 players and then Bo Horvat's on another team. So the Islanders have to make sure that they take care of business and they give him an extension. But I like the deal. I'm very excited about the deal, and a few of my Islander fan friends I've talked to really like the deal.
No, I thought this was a great trade for the Islanders. Like you said, you were lacking this goal scorer that the Islanders have been MIA without for years now, and now you bring in a guy who's automatically the best scorer on your team. Like that's not even a question.
Fans have a tendency to overrate prospects. Rati, I don't know anything about the guy, so I can't say for certain if he's going to be an elite player. Yeah, he might be, but he might not. He might not.
No, and this even goes back to, like, look at when the Mets traded for Edwin Diaz. You know, everyone was all butthurt about trading Jared Kelenic. Oh, how can you trade Jared Kelenic? Blah, 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 blah. Top prospect, all this bullshit. Look at it now. Edwin Diaz is the top closer in the league, and Jared Kelenic sucks balls. Yeah. This could easily be the same thing for the Islanders. That Horvat could turn into a top goal scorer in the league, and this guy Reacher, I don't even know his name, could suck ass.
But the Islanders make one of the first splashes of the trade deadline, which is not for another month, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's possible Lou could have another deal up his sleeve. You never know. So just be prepared. It could be anything at this point, and good for him. You know, it's about time that this team just started taking a plunge and making a splash, getting the fans a little bit excited again.
Literally.
But all right, before we get out of here, anything else?
I got a question for you. Brock, who do you think is going to be the starting quarterback for the 49ers next year? Trey Lance or Brock Purdy?
It's a good question.
Because you invested the first-round pick in Lance, and you never really got to see him play. I mean, he got injured the first game this year. And then Purdy
may not be ready for the season.
Yeah, I heard 6 to 8 months.
Yeah, so you're talking he ain't going to be back until at least September, which means they'll have no time. I will be very honest. I think the next quarterback of the 49ers will be Tom Brady.
Really? I can see that. I mean, that's a big rumor.
Because I can't figure out who else would go there unless they decide to bring Garoppolo back.
Right.
I don't see them doing that either. Now, you could go two ways here. You could go with Lance. You invested a number 3 overall pick on the guy, and you have yet to see what he can do. So you might be looking at it as inadvertently giving up on him, which I don't agree with.
Right.
Or you can find a guy who will be cost effective that can get you through the hump until both guys are ready to go.
Right.
Now, I don't know if the Niners will do that because they're just in a win. They're always in the hunt for a Super Bowl every year. So I don't know if signing a Baker Mayfield or a, Jacoby Brissett would be a good idea for them when you want to be in the Super Bowl, you want to win a Super Bowl. And the Niners are always being talked about in the Super Bowl conversation, which is why I think at the end of the day, I keep getting in my head it's going to be Tom Brady.
I can see it. I could really see it. But I mean, I think Brady's done though. I think this is done. I think this is it for Brady.
And let me get one thing straight too. The Brock Purdy injury has nothing to do with Aaron Rodgers. So don't look any deeper into that than it needs to be. They can't afford to freaking put Aaron Rodgers on that roster. They just can't. So I don't think it's going to happen. And the Packers are sure as shit not going to trade Rodgers to the 49ers.
No.
So especially if the rumors are true and they will only trade him to an AFC team. So, but right now, if I had to take a guess, I would probably say Tom Brady.
All right.
All right, everyone, that's going to do it for this episode of Moffett on the Mic. I'd like to thank everybody for checking us out on the Facebook feed. And you can follow the show, as always, on Instagram at Moffett on the Mic. You can follow Klim and the A1 Sports Network on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Klim, thank you for holding it down like you normally do. Best of luck with everything with the FDNY. Keep me posted on how everything's going. And we're going to take probably at least a month. We're going to regroup and probably do more kind of weekend podcast shows moving forward, just due to scheduling, pretty much. But we'll keep you posted on when we do stuff, and hopefully we'll be able to book the same guests that we've normally been used to getting. So on behalf of Klim, this is Craig. This is a temporary sign-off of the Moffett on the Mic show. And wherever you are, stay safe. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Enjoy the offseason. Enjoy the fact that the Knicks still can't beat the Nets. And and pretty much enjoy everything else. So, again, wherever you are, stay safe. Back again, probably sometime in March. We'll kind of post something as we get closer to when we decide we want to, once we get a schedule figured out. And that's it. So everybody, wherever you are, take care of yourselves. Stay safe during this tough time. And we'll talk again probably sometime in March. Have a great one, everybody.